to inspire, innovate, ignite conversations that count. And I'm super glad that you're here, whether you're live or watching the replay. We're just happy to have you join us. Today, we have some just incredible panelists. And we're going to be discussing the topic of finding your flow and change. And we would all like to thank Bex Smith for suggesting this topic, because we've brought in some great people to talk about it, some experts to talk about it. So, we all experience the pressures of life, daily life. There's just so many distractions. And, it could be kids, it could be aging parents, it could be work or whatever. There's just so much. And it all has an impact on how we feel, our well-being. And as we're being, distracted and pushed and pulled in every different direction. So the question is, how do we find peace or a sense of security and flow in the middle of all the stuff that's going on? So today, that's what we are going to explore, and you're going to learn what it means to find flow and how to stay in flow when the world is just so busy changing around us. And the point is no matter what's going on, no matter what situation or circumstance you're in, you can always find peace. So we're going to talk about that today. And just a little bit about the series Conversations That Count. We handpick all of our experts who are passionate and experts in the topic. And we know that they are going to give you all just the best tips and advice. And the conversations we've been having have been amazing. So glad you could be here. And, if you do show up live, if you're watching the replay, you get to ask your questions in the moment. So it's always great to show up live if you can. And we also encourage you to join us in some of our ongoing classes. We have classes, these events going on throughout the week, and they're just amazing topics. So and they're all about your journey back to self-love. So I'm going to pop the link in a little bit, how you can sign up for the membership of sacredyou.love, our sacred community, for just $1. And these events are free, but when you join the membership, they just so much more value that you get, lots of classes and just so much to choose from. So sit back, relax, enjoy. And I'm just going to introduce our lovely panelists, and I'm just going to go in the way that I see them on my screen here. So Allison is a generator in human design, and she's here to master her own skills, transform and transmute that energy, and then teach others what she's learned. Allison is passionate about leading by example and showing women how to operate in their power zone. She is a boots on the ground and nurturing type of gal, and we're just so happy to have you, Allison. Thank you. And Bex Smith. Bex is known as your cheerleader for change. She's a speaker, a trainer, a psychotherapist, counselor, well-being mentor, corporate facilitator, and change consultant. And she's on a mission to help you find your flow in change through her groundbreaking change intelligence model, which helps people better manage their emotions and adapt to what's changing in the environment around them. And then we have Jennifer Regular. Jennifer is the transformational author of Embrace Your Power, a healing journey to self-discovery, and a soul-centered empowerment coach at Lighting the Path, where she aligns visionaries with their passion and mission so they can focus on experiencing satisfaction while making the difference that they want to make in the world. And we have Josette Diaz. Josette is the founder of Guidance to Wellness. She's a guide, a Reiki master, teacher, and champion to women who are rediscovering themselves. She teaches self-mastery through slowing down, listening deeply, and connecting within. And her signature program, Seasons of the Soul, uses the 4 seasons as archetypes for change. Josette's main philosophy in life is what is meant for you is meant for you. You only have to say yes. I love that. So, and me, my name's Lisa, and I help women reclaim their voice, become confidently visible, and embody their infinite light. And I believe as they rise up out of the chaos, the struggle, and the hustle, they get to break free from the weight of overwhelm and self-doubt so that they can reach success in the lightness of joy and ease. and they learn to access their superhuman abilities and experience just a whole new way of up-leveling their reality so they can welcome all forms of abundance. So we're going to get started. And so the first question, I'm just going to go around the room and I'm just going to ask, what does it mean to you about what does flowing in change mean to you, and why is that topic, like, we know why it's important, but why have you made it important in your life as an expert? So Josette, do you want to start for us?
Yes, sure. So the importance to me about creating a flow and change, that's the question, correct?
Yes.
Just making sure. Okay. I don't want to talk about something else. Is that change is inevitable. No one is ever going to get through life without having change occur and happen constantly. And so there are some people that have a really difficult time with change, the big changes that happen in life. And so understanding that there are different stages of change and how to have a framework to rely on for change can be really helpful and supportive if that's something that sings to your heart. So that's what sings to my heart. I love having systems and framework to help guide me along the way. And so that's what I feel is really important, because within that framework, you can sort of relax and then really sink into your own personal flow as you move through those different stages of change. I'd like to give someone else a chance on that one.
Yeah, no, thank you. Thank you. That I love that. And I see everybody's heads going like this. So Allison, do you want to talk about what flowing with change means to you and why you're focusing on that?
It's a really juicy question, to be honest, because it's so many different avenues you could take around what that means. But for me, it's the classification of we are multidimensional. We are so many different facets of so many different people inside of us. And to express each one of those can sometimes be uncomfortable when we're changing our environments that we live in. Say you've just had a divorce and you're moving into a new space, and that's a change in itself, but then navigating that change with how you respond or how you behave, etc. It's so multifaceted. So it depends on, and I mean, I'm very much in the yes for flow to bring change, but it's supporting the change, as Josette said, navigating that energy and being multidimensional, doing it too, because I know for me, mum, wife, sister, dog mum, human mum, you know what I mean? Like, there's so many different aspects of me, and I have to, as a generator, I like to move with the energy anyway, but having flow is like, okay, if I have a routine, if I have a set time frame of, like Josette again said, systems and frameworks, if I've got an idea of what I've got today, can really use that to benefit the flow easier.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I can be all of those multidimensional things simultaneously.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that. Thank you, Allison. Bex, this is your topic. Do you want to talk about it?
Love to. Thank you. I think Josette said that everything's always changing, and that is something that we cannot stop and we cannot change. And so I think that change can be disruptive or explosive, or it can be safe and nurturing. So really the importance of creating the flow in change is about actually having the tools to handle change effectively and to honor our own natural change rhythm. And that's what I think is about the flow. It's about understanding your own natural change rhythm and then being able to actually keep yourself in flow with that. So I think about it as thinking, planning, feeling, and doing. And we have an activation point and we have an avoidance point. And so if we know which are our activation points and our avoidance points, then we can actually keep ourselves in flow in each of those aspects.
Beautiful. Thank you. I want to find out more about that, but we'll save that for the next round. So, Jennifer.
Yes, hi everyone. Finding flow. Well, it gives us a sense of stability, not even a sense of stability, but being able to ground in the present moment and be really fully present with what's presenting itself in that moment, and then being able to move with that, to be able to keep moving forward in that, because not being attached to what's occurred in the past, but maybe taking time to reflect on what's the deeper meaning of that. What is it that this is happening for? And where is it leading me? So if we're staying open to the flow, then we're being able to move forward in that and see what opportunities life is presenting for us, and to stay in a state where that allows for inspiration so that we can take inspired action. And when we're getting caught up, or we're out of alignment, or when we're feeling stuck or stagnant, then it creates kind of this fog around us, or this heaviness, and that can actually prevent us or hinder us from moving forward in the most beneficial way.
I love that. Yeah, I totally agree with that. It's like flowing with change. I mean, change is always, like you've all said, it's inevitable. That's what our life is change. That's how we grow and move, and and it's being able to be present in that change and respond. I love that. So Bex, you mentioned tools to handle the change. Maybe you'd like to offer, maybe everybody can think about some tools that they would like to offer to help flow in change. Bex, did you want to start with that?
Love to, thank you. Yeah, the tools that I have is really, I use nature as a reflection for me. So I look to nature to see what seasonal changes there are, what aspects are changing around me at the moment, and then I look at what nature does to be able to reflect that back. And it may be that winter's coming down here in the southern hemisphere. So what happens to trees in winter? They shed their leaves, they sort of go inside, they store their energy, and then they get ready to come out and come to life. So we may need to have a winter for ourselves as well. How are we dealing with external factors or external influences in our internal selves? So I look to the seasons and to nature for some tools, but I also use the elements. So the elements are a really big driver in my change intelligence model, and each of those aspects that I talked about, the thinking, planning, feeling, doing, has an element that's attached to that. And I am able to tap into the element for thinking, say air, and really create a personal ritual or rhythm around what I'm going to do to activate that thinking space. So I can do some breathing, I can do some talking, I can, because thinking's not just about all in your head, it's also about, being able to voice that to others. So I use the elements to actually bring that to life in each of those aspects.
It's beautiful. I love that. Thank you for sharing. Josette, did you want to talk about any tools that you might have?
Yes. I love what you said, Bex, because I too use nature, and I use the seasons as archetypes for change, so that you can inspire yourself to move through that system of change, and you can initiate change and have this framework. I love that you use tools based on elements. That's really genius. I love that. And some of the things that I like to do to help my clients get through different moments of change is, in winter, when you're looking at a reflective moment, gratitude is a really big practice that I use, because it's so powerful. It truly brings in the practice of focus and consistency, and it allows you to expand. And you're expanding not only your vision, you're also expanding that energy and the love that you feel in those moments. And so this can be a very powerful tool to help you be in your body, number one, and then to also get really in touch with yourself about your truest desires while you're going through change, because you're looking forward to the future once you get on the other side of that. And so gratitude can be a really big tool. It's helped me shift through many different things. It's helped my clients broaden their horizons and get to the other side of what they're going through, whether it's traumatic or something that they're just actually shifting in their life. So that's one of my biggest tools that I use a lot.
I love that. Yeah, it's so important. Gratitude. Just, it brings you right into the present, right? Grounded down into the present moment of, you know, the energy that's available. So I love that. Thank you. Allison, did you want to share tools?
Yeah, sure. One tool that I use, and I've used for, I don't know, however many years it was introduced to me now, but is yoga. It's almost, to me, yoga is like going to the spiritual gym.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you've got to fit yourself as a contortionist into some God unknown position to feel a little bit of pressure, and at the same time argue with your mind that it's good for you, it's good for you, and you once you let go of that pose, and this is a really goofy way to explain it, but you get like this, and you get this sense of peace, and you get this gratitude of like, I actually did this. This is freaking awesome. Like, okay, next week, let's try doing that just a little bit, like 1% more, just a little bit more, And so you're sort of going through these phases throughout that session, but it's a really good tool to sort of use overall as a whole holistic experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, yeah.
I've heard, I'm not a yogi myself. I was a gymnast, so I do.
I never was a yogi either.
But I do love yoga poses. Yeah, I do love yoga poses, and it's true. It helps you. It brings you back into the present moment, so that you can kind of ground into that. I love that. Thank you, Allison.
Yeah.
And you
find so much peace.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you, Jennifer.
Yeah, well, there's a few things that come to mind, but I'll just touch on them briefly. One is having a clear intent so that you can direct your flow. And clear intent is a great thing to be able to make some time for, especially first thing in the morning, so that you can steady yourself, you can center yourself, and just ground yourself and notice where you're flowing from, whether it's your heart or your head or any of the other chakras. Where is the energy flowing today? Where is it coming from? So doing that energy check-in and see how you're flowing. So having some of that self-awareness, having a clear intention, setting the tone for the day. I find my morning routine is utmost importance, because that really makes a difference to how the rest of my day goes, and then the rest of my week and month and so on. So it makes a huge difference, and it doesn't even have to take long. It could be even just deciding what you want to be experiencing that day and just planting the seed for that, right? Today I choose joy, for example, right? And then so you're flowing with that. It's also important to steady yourself, because we talk about the big changes and all the uncertainty and so on. But even throughout the day, there's disruptions and there's distractions that can disrupt our flow of the day. Even when we've set that clear intent, other things can come up and we can react to that. And it could really throw us out of alignment, out of sync. We could be reactive as in anger or frustrated, or lash out even at people. So being aware of how disruptions affect us and how our breathing is, how we're flowing, doing those little check-ins throughout the day to see where the energy is coming from, where it is, or if we just need to take a moment to regroup and rebalance and find our flow again. And the other thing I can't remember at the moment, but I do remember a line that came to me from a Karen Drucker song that I'm choosing. I will only go as fast as the slowest part of me feels safe to go. And quite often, I know I'm famous for this, is that I'll go and push really hard. And it's like I'm dragging that inner child with me. It's kicking and screaming, and, we're just don't even pay attention, just fast forward, straight ahead, right? And then that song will come to me and it'll almost make me cry, because it's just that awareness, like, what am I doing? oh, it can only go as fast as the slowest part of me feels safe to go. So really being into what that is. And the other thing just came back to me. What's really helpful for me is being aware of the cosmic energies at play as well, because I'm very sensitive to the collective energy and energy that's going on with the planets and the stars and so on, and solar flares and meteorites, and just being aware of that helps me to understand what's going on. I'm like, okay, just having that awareness. It's not that we have more to do, but it's almost like just checking the weather. You just kind of prepare for what's happening, right? And just being able to navigate that more. So the more information you have about energies that are flowing within and around you can also help navigate and put into practice some of the self-care and the soul care that helps us stay steady and within that flow, so that we can handle it.
Yeah, I love that. And I totally agree about the morning practice. If I don't have my morning practice, I feel scattered, like, and so it's super important to be able to have something that grounds you and makes you feel joyful and peaceful and in the present moment, so that you can move forward from that piece, from that place. I love that. So all of you have mentioned presence and the mind body, the body, the importance of body movement and anchoring the feelings into your body. And what I thought when I heard this is, like, the mind, when we're going through change, it's that reaction of fear. When we're not in flow, it's that reaction of, oh my God, what's going? And we jump into the future. And so slowing down the mind is what we've all been talking about, but maybe the audience has some questions about how to slow down the mind, or how to anchor things into your body. So if anybody in the audience has any questions, please pop them into the chat so that we can answer those. But meanwhile, does anybody want to say anything about that? Did anything come to mind? Yeah, Bex.
Yeah, it did. And I heard a lot of embodiment, and to keep yourself in flow as well. And I think to be in flow is to be in body, and to embody change is very important. And so body practice is absolutely a way to do that, and physically to do that. But also, I guess the coming out of your head and into your body is that elemental piece too. I'll go back to my elements, and it's associating the things that are the elements show us to be able to embody that. So breathing for air, when you're thinking in that thinking space, breathing, maybe fanning, different techniques in relation to the air element. Moving on to the earth, it's obviously the grounding, but it's also, getting your hands stuck in dirt, or potentially having crystals around as well. So, some little triggers like that are really great for me to be able to know which stage I'm at, to be able to then do that. So the thinking is really good. The planning, I have crystals around me to ground me. The feeling part is really where the body comes in, and that's that water part. So how am I helping myself with water? How am I hydrating myself? How am I, maybe giving myself an Epsom salt bath or a magnesium bath to be able to do that too? That's really creates that embodiment feeling for me. And then the fire element is, again, some fire breathing, or even, going into a sauna. So it can be an external thing that actually helps you create that internal embodiment of change. So I like to do lots of different practices for different types of that, and at different parts of the flow cycle.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. So interesting. The different tools that can be used. And so Joe is saying a great way to quiet the mind is using the Sedona method. And he says just reading the book is enough. You don't need to go to a seminar. So the Sedona method. And so, yeah, thank you, Joe, for that. Appreciate that. Did anybody else want to talk about, I forgot what we were talking about earlier. Anybody else want to say anything before I go on to the next question? Okay, so one thing that came to mind for me was I've heard you all talk about self-awareness, And so self-awareness and preparedness, how do people prepare for change so that they can flow into change? Would anybody like to answer that?
Take a stab at it.
Yeah.
So when you're looking at going through change, or you find yourself in the midst of change, it's really good to take the opportunity to slow yourself down, because so often we are operating out of our automatic responses. So if we don't take the time to slow it down and get present with ourselves so that we can really discern what's going on and what we're really wanting to do in the process of this change, you then start responding to what's going on around you. We've all had that experience where we make a decision about something, and we then look back on it and go, why did I decide that? I know better. I know that this, and this is going to happen as a reflection of it. So if you slow yourself down and then start to listen and turn the ear inward, so that you are actually getting in touch with that intuitive part of yourself, which taps you into your own natural rhythm, you then can hear yourself being guided more. And this helps you to set personal boundaries, and those boundaries assist you in knowing how far you're willing to go as you're moving through the change. And this helps you to make better decisions as you go through that process. And then really connecting with yourself. It's a lot of what, like Bex was talking about, embodiment, and giving yourself those moments to really connect in with your physical body, so that you are opening up that energetic channels, so that you are really connecting within that rhythm, with the rhythm within yourself, so that you then put yourself into a better space of flow as you move through that change. So in my mind, it's about slowing down, listening in, and then connecting. And that's part of the embodiment piece, as it places you in that movement of what works best for you, so that you have a better opportunity to have optimal change and have it really fit into your life, so that you create better habits and you create better decision-making mechanisms in order to rely on that as you go forward. Because something's going to always challenge you once you get through change. Once you initiate it and you make a decision, yeah, you're going to be challenged on all of the old stuff that you were letting go of as you move through the change.
Absolutely. And just an experience I had. I used to rush, like in my career when I was working, and like even up until probably 4 years ago, I would rush. I'd leave at the last minute and I just rush to get to and I remember, like, why am I doing this? I'm always stressed. It always puts me in a state of stress and not flow. And once I allowed myself this space to not rush, it just made everything less chaotic, less scattered, less, and so I'm able to flow with change more. If there's a, traffic jam, or if there's, something that comes up, it's not a big deal, because I've given myself that space, and I will never go back to rushing, never go back to rushing. So does anybody else want to talk about the preparedness? Yeah, Allison.
I just have to wholeheartedly agree with you, Ursula. I'm never rushing again. The story, it was exactly the same. Up until 4 years ago, it was exactly the same. It was like, we had 7 days in a week, and I was pushing for Sunday so I could stop, because Sunday was rest day. It was like a rule in my house. Like, really, I was creating rules of just 1 day a week to stop. Are you serious? Like, that's, it's, and that's sort of like looking at it from the, in the self-awareness phase of, like, that's the meta level. That's the big knock on the door to go, hang on a second, whoa, something needs to change here. What is that? And then looking at it from, actually, what do I want to create now? I don't like this cycle. I don't want to keep doing this. This is bullshit and I hate it. really what I want to do is I actually want to start creating something different. You don't need to do anything massive or extravagant. It can be as simple as one thing, right? And it means that it might be, I'm going to get up 5 minutes later today. I'm going to have sleep in for 5 minutes. And, you know, and that can create a significant change. Mindset, body-wise, the whole entire spectrum, right? So it's knowing what phase self-awareness that you're in. Are you in creation? Are you creating something different? Or are we just taking action on the guidance that we've been given through the creation phase? Or is this really a stop now, nurture, nothing else but just looking after little human here, and everything else can just fall down and collapse around you? It's going to be okay. Like that to me is how to navigate change at the meta level.
Yeah, no, that's great. It's perfect. And I love that you brought up about creating, because we can create change to have more flow. So we're talking about change that goes on around us in our situations and circumstances, which is always going to be, there's always going to be that maybe we can have somebody talk about creating change so that you can go into more flow. I know, Jennifer, you've touched on that a little bit. Does anybody want to talk about that? Yes, Bex.
I seem to be putting my hand up a lot, but I don't mind. I think the thing is the creation of change that I work with clients on is understanding when their natural rhythm is disrupted. And you talked about stresses just before, and that's a really good point, because feeling stressed is the impact of change. So that's a symptom of change, is stress. But when you actually look at stress as a behavior that prevents you from perhaps making adjustments that are of your best interest, like procrastination, withdrawal, or maybe being passive aggressive, then rather than avoiding these stresses, I actually help people work with them to see and uncover what it is they're trying to avoid. And that is actually creating change. So that's that creation of change, of wanting to change something in your life because it is actually not working for you. So confronting the problem or dealing with the stressor is, I think, the only way you can effectively reduce the stress that it actually causes. So recognizing the avoidance pattern in your life, you can work to finding an alternative behavior and then start putting that into practice to find your flow, to reconnect with your natural rhythm again.
Yeah, I love that, because I think everything keeps coming back. What I'm hearing is presence, being present and connected within, because if you're connected within, you're present, and anything can swirl around you and you will be still standing just in your center, right? So but there's a lot of people that don't know how to even connect within. So does anybody want to share a tip about that? Because that, to me, I believe that helps you really step into the flow. I don't know, feel free to disagree with me, but does anybody want to have a discussion around that? Yeah, Allison.
I find that stillness gets that creates that space for us. When you're accessing that inner being of us, that source light energy that we have within us, the desire, the dreams, the person that we came here to be, in a manner of speaking, when you create stillness, you get to hear those whispers. Yeah. And I find that for me, going for a walk every morning and just being mindful but mindless. So you're out in nature and you know where you're walking. It's like a trail that you're following or a track that you often walk. But in the appreciation and gratitude of just being outdoors, and yes, it's a cold morning here in Australia, and why the hell am I walking at 6:30 in the morning? But you kind of go mindless in the sense of you're not thinking about anything, you're just there and you're being in the moment. Yeah, which creates that mindless scenario for us. So as you walk, the energy can just flow through you, and you get those sparks of ideas and those messages, that the questions to the riddle that you've been trying to solve for the last 48 hours is now suddenly dropped into your mind, and you're like, oh, you know.
Yeah.
And
that does,
like, shit, I've got to run home before I forget all about it. But
but that does help you, you know, if something was to change rapidly right after that experience, you would be naturally more able to not react to it, but to be more in flow as you meet that experience, right?
yeah, it's kind of, to me, when I go on a walk, this is just for my own, so you know where I'm coming from, is like when I walk, I'm not thinking about anything, but when something does come to mind, I'm sort of like getting curious, like, oh, what could that mean? Oh, I was thinking about that the other day. And you start to become like that childlike, wondrous, and then from there, it sort of opens up more beingness and presence, like you said.
Yeah, I know that, you know, people talk about meditation, and so many people say, well, I don't want to sit and meditate. My mind doesn't slow down. But any kind of, I used to have to, you know, scoop horse poop every day. And that, just that motion and that half hour was so meditative for me. So raking or sweeping or any of those movements that you're just repetitive doing, that you're not, your mind is not engaged in, hopefully
the subconsciousness of it all.
Yeah, exactly.
And as Beck said in the comments, I can see she's written, presence in nature is a beautiful organic way to connect, and she usually gives us great signs too. Absolutely, she does, all the time. It's like getting giggly funny because she's, you know, it's like,
yeah, because you get a sign. Yes, exactly. Exactly.
When spirit play funny buggers, it reminds me a bit like Sheldon knocking on the door in The Big Bang Theory 3 times, like, hello, 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 like, do you get it? Do you get it? Hello.
I'm curious, Jennifer, did you want to add anything to the conversation?
Sure. Coming back to our senses helps us come back to our senses. And so paying attention to what we're hearing in that moment, what we're seeing visually in that moment, and maybe even what we can taste in that moment, or having something sensory to eat, like a piece of fruit or a piece of chocolate that melts in your mouth, or something like that, where you're paying attention to how that's entering you. And also through touch, just being able to put your hand on your heart and see what that feels like. Is it warm? Is it cool? Can you feel your heartbeat? Like, or even just, you know, gently touching your arm, you know, and feeling that. And that helps you also to come in back into your body. And then you can go even more. You might want to close your eyes to kind of shut out the world, so to speak, and then just notice what's happening in your body. And of course, everyone talks about noticing your breath. And you start to notice then that there's more space between the thoughts. There's more of a settling that happens because we become calmer and more still. And I'm one of those people, Lisa, that cannot sit still and meditate. I have to be doing something. I can do better now. It's been a work in progress. But what was really meaningful for me and helped me really go within was actually like a journey dance or primal dance, or like a dancing meditation, something that has movement involved in it. Really helped me to go inside. And maybe that's because I have a lot of excess energy. So, you know, I kind of had to move that so that I can and find my way in, almost spiral my way in. Actually, I did a lot of spiral dancing too. So, you know, so finding your way back through all of the senses, including touch as well, and just creating space. When you have more space, then you can act when inspiration hits, and you have space for the unexpected happening, and not to get worked up because there's room to handle it, that it's okay. It's not feeling so pressurized because you've created this space, or you create space in your day where you don't have things back to back, but you allow some transition space in there so that you can flow more from one thing to the next, or, you know, be available if something unexpected comes up, like a phone call, or you have to go pick a child up for school, or something that comes up that you didn't plan for. There's space in your day to just take a breath. So taking a break, and allowing yourself to do that and not feel guilty about it can also help with the flow. Even though it seems like you're stopping, you're
Mhm.
actually allowing more of the internal flow to happen and allow for more integration and processing to happen.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
yeah, indeed. I love to work with the light. And so bringing in the higher frequencies. And when you have the space to do that, then you're able to shift your frequency and bring in more light, hold more light to raise your frequency even more. And I think that's a really good way to flow with change too, is to raise your vibration, to really to be in a different state, to change your state, basically. So we have about 15 minutes left. So I would love to hear maybe just, some last little comments of anything that you want to talk about. And of course, related to change and flow and presence and all of the things that we've been talking about, so that listeners can really get some really good idea of how to navigate this, how to do it. And we've talked a lot about some really great things, but does anybody have anything that they want to say related to this topic? Josette? Yeah.
So one of the things that I wanted to mention is that when we have our inspirations around change, or we're in the midst of the change, it's a really good exercise to then write it down and then look at, if this is what I want, or this is what's happening, whatever the context is, and then ask yourself, if I get that, then what does it look like? And then if I get that, what does that look like? Because the more layers that you ask yourself that question, the deeper you get. And then that helps you answer from within rather than responding to what's external around you as you go through those different stages in the change. And so asking why is a really important piece to managing and navigating through that change. And I just wanted to add, I love meditations when I'm doing dishes, folding laundry, doing a puzzle, because I too have the same issue. I don't like to sit still. I have too much internal energy. And so being a master generator there, Allison. And so knowing that I can just meditate in doing different activities is really a great way to practice and open up that space, like Jennifer was saying. I love that.
Yeah, yes, I love that. I'm writing it down right now so that I can use that exercise, because that's a good one. I haven't done that in those layers. I mean, I've done it in different ways, but not specifically with an intention or with a change that's coming or a change that I want. So I think that's great. And I love, Jennifer, what you were saying about dancing and feeling the movement, and how that, because that also helps not only go inward, but it helps you raise your frequency, so that you're stabilizing yourself for whatever change is going to come, that you don't. We're all walking in the unknown right now. We don't know what's coming. And so, change is even maybe a little more, people see it as a little more scary because things are so amiss. And so being in your body, doing that is such a great idea. And I love, Bex, what you were saying about nature and Allison about, going in nature and talking to nature, and the cycles and the rhythms and all of that's such good stuff. I'm a projector, so I don't have a lot of energy, but I do love to dance. So does anybody else want to talk about any added conversation?
Yeah, I also put in the comments about body scanning too. So I think that's a really good way to sort of acknowledge change that's happening for you that you might not actually think is affecting you. And so, that's very simple, of just finding a spot. You can be standing, you can even be driving, but I would probably not recommend doing it while you're driving if you haven't done it before. And that is just really tuning into your body and seeing where you might have some pain, or you might have a niggly feeling, or you might have something that isn't isn't supporting you in your body. So, a body sensation, something like that. And I love Jennifer with coming back to your senses actually brings you back to your senses. I think, being able to acknowledge something that's different happening physically for you in your body with the body scan is a really great tool to go, okay, I've got a really sore shoulder. What's that? What's happening in my life at the moment that either may be causing me to hold my shoulder tightly, or is it an injury from something that I'm doing that I also need to make a change about as well? So the body scanning can give you some really great insight into different areas. And I follow Louise Hay, and of course have her book with me to look at How to Heal Your Life book, look at the different signs that your body can give you related to different things in your life that you might need to look at, which is a great tool as well. But I also want to just acknowledge that the magic is in the mundane, because it's the mundane that keeps us in flow. So really, when we look at creating the magic in our life to make change, it's about coming back to the heart of participation and purpose. And I think somebody talked about finding the purpose and the intent, and magic is deliberate change. So feeling the magic inside you in nature, all of those aspects is actually acknowledging that things change and things grow and things move. So really find the magic in you and be able to see your beauty and reflected in nature. That's a great way to do it too.
I love that. Beautiful, Bex. Thank you for that. I love that. Susan, did you have a question? Or does anybody in the audience have any questions? If so, Jennifer, go ahead. If anybody has a question, just go ahead and pop it in the chat and we'll see it. But go ahead, Jennifer.
Yeah, we're talking a lot about that awareness too, and perhaps even awareness of our beliefs and our attitudes towards change and the unknown. Whether it's the fear of the unknown or embracing the unknown, or are you willing to embrace change? And just noticing what kind of beliefs and attitudes you have around change, and maybe opening up the space there to embrace change, or to just acknowledge what your attitudes are around it can already start to change it. It kind of loses its power then once you start to acknowledge something. So just paying attention to that as well. And then you can also practice changing things a little bit, walking a different route or driving a different route to your usual place that you go to, or trying something different at the restaurant, or just switching up your routine just a little bit, or adding something to it, taking something away from it, going somewhere different, just practicing small little changes so that you can get more comfortable about change. And to recognize too that faith and fear are flip sides of the same coin, right? So having the fear of the unknown, or having faith that, life is happening for us and that there is a divine order to things, and there's, the cosmic alignments that have been in existence for billions of years that have just follow their own rhythm, right? And it all works out okay. And faith too, for me, is an acronym for finding answers in the heart. So always coming back into your heart space and finding your answers there, and then moving from that center and having faith and being able to embrace the changes and the unknown and what else is possible, what's going to happen next, like approach even with that curiosity and wonder and joy, and that can be fun too.
Yeah, I love what you're saying. And Bex is also saying, yes, change is happening for us, not to us. I love that. And just having change is the expansion that we're experiencing. It's an experience. Change is experiencing life in motion, right? It's just experiencing life in motion as we expand and as we continue to expand and evolve. And I think, what was I going to say? I just lost it. So Bex is saying, what is this change offering me to learn about myself? What can I nurture in myself so that I can grow? And I do. Yeah, that's good points. And I think, as we're changing is, like I said, it's inevitable. I mean, we all know that this is what this human experience is about changing and evolving and expanding. And when you have faith and trust, it makes it so much easier to let go of the worry and to let go of what might happen, because you don't have to go into the future. If you have faith and trust, you can stay more easily in the present moment, enjoying your day, enjoying every moment. Yes, Susan.
Well, speaking to what you're just saying, Lisa, and to what everybody else is saying, and Bex especially, I'm in my 7th decade, and I've seen multiple changes in my life, in the world, and economies. I've been through multiple recessions and verging on depressions, pandemics, kids, grandkids, divorces. Change is constant. And if your life ever moves into that place of static, non-change, that's the time to wonder, maybe it's time to switch things up. A plateau is nice for a little while, but what happens, and I can put this question out to your experts, what do you think would happen if there was no change? If everything just remains static? Safe perhaps, but static.
We don't get to experience life. We don't get to experience that, the expansion, right? Yeah, so we have 6 more minutes, so let's talk about that. Jennifer. Yes.
Yeah, I like this, where this next point is going. We talk about moving out of our comfort zone, right? And people feel uncomfortable about that, and we got to get used to being comfortable with being uncomfortable. But what if you thought of moving out of your comfort zone as moving into your growth zone?
Mm-hmm. That's what Joe's saying. We don't grow if we don't.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. Bex.
Great question, Susan. And I wish that we had more time for this, because it's a whole lot. But I think it really boils down to, then it's like we would stop existing, because every single aspect of our body changes and grows and does different, heals itself and goes through molecule changes. So I think that if change didn't exist, then we wouldn't exist.
Brilliant. That's a good one. I like that. Scary, but I like it.
Definitely.
Yeah, no, I love it too. It's beautiful. I mean, I believe it. I believe that's true.
And I have to comment on what Jennifer just said as well, that your body is constantly in change. Cells die, new cells grow. Our hair changes, our skin qualities change. Our everything about us revolves and changes. So if our lives didn't change, there'd be something very wrong with whatever we were doing.
You can feel that too when you are at a comfortable, familiar, unchanging. You feel that there's something that's not right if you're in that space for too long, because that's, like Joe said, it's the whole reason we're here, is to be out of our comfort zone and to grow. It's the way we grow. It's the way we're here to evolve and expand. And we can't do that without the change. So I love that. Thank you.
And to experience, sorry if I could just say, and to experience, and because we are, here to experience different things, different people, different everythings.
Exactly. Oh my gosh. Well, we could go on and on, but we're out of time. So if all of the panelists can pop their information into the chat so that the so everybody here can grab their information. I just, we truly want to thank each one of you, all of our beautiful panelists, for sharing their wisdom, and for everyone who's joined us today and who's watching the replay. And we just encourage you to take what you've learned and put some of this into action. I told you I'm a note taker, so I've taken notes today. So there's a lot of things that, I need to be reminded of. And I think maybe even if we've heard some of these things before, take them with a new perspective, because we've changed since yesterday. We've changed since the last time we've heard it, or even implemented it, put it into the action. So just encouraging you to put what you've taken today into action, so that you can flow with change, so that you can navigate change with more strength and confidence, I think. And stay tuned for next week, because we are going to be talking about financial well-being. And you can secure your tickets. I'm going to pop the link in here. And also, while you're there, consider signing up as a member for just $1. For just $1, you can be a member. And there's just so many benefits of being a member, so much more great events and classes and things that you can experience and change. So you can change and grow. And so I'm going to pop the chat for the membership here in. And we as a community just want to thank you. We are here to support you in your journey and our journey and all of our journeys back to self-love and to oneness. And thank you, everyone, for being here.
Thank you, Lisa. Can I just say that, yes, financial wellbeing is coming up next week. Tomorrow we have our guest facilitator, Susan, who's with us today, in her panel discussion is how do 21st century women use spirituality in life and love? And we are looking forward to that tomorrow. So
Beautiful.
Thank you, everyone. We will say farewell to Facebook.
And everyone can find the link to that panel discussion on that same link that I put in the.
Yep. And we'll put that in.